Hi, everyone. I'm excited to be here today to talk to you about some of the miracle stories that are happening right here in our own city, in our own state, every day. My name is Tony Kausha, and the title of our show is Tony's 50,000 Coincidence Miracles. Please note, this show is not about religion, and we're not trying to change anyone's religion, and we're not trying to get you to join any religion. It's just about miracle stories. I don't know of any religion on the planet that doesn't talk about miracles. That's why religions begin, because they have something that's telling them there's really a God. But we're not going to get into that. We're going to just talk about miracles and leave the decisions about all that up to you. So we don't care what religion you are. We just want to talk about miracles. If you are an atheist, I think you'll enjoy the program as well, although I can't guarantee you'll remain an atheist very long after you hear many convincing stories, coincidence kinds of stories about miracles. You can email me your own stories if you wish. We'll try to use all we can on the show. I can't guarantee we will, depending on volume and time, but you're welcome to send your stories on to us, and we will mention them when we can. You can send them to the following email address. But please notice that if we do use your story, we won't mention your name. We'll keep you anonymous. And we suggest that in your story, when you send it to us, don't use your correct name. That way anyone listening will not be able to figure out that it was you that sent the story in. The email address you can send your stories to is very easy to remember. It consists of 2 words and 3 numbers. The first word is Tony, spelled Tony, and the second word is and, spelled A-N-D, and the numbers are 777. So once again, the name is Tony and 777 at AOL.com. Well, let us begin. Our first coincidence miracle today is, again, some stories from last summer when I was at the beach passing out cards about our books and our radio show, just to let people know about the availability of the books and the radio show that helps people to have conversations with God. And I got to the parking lot at a certain beach before I even got to the beach, and I pulled into my parking place. At the same time, I noticed a woman next to me pulled into her parking spot. So I thought, well, before I go out to the beach, maybe I'll hand her a card before I go out to the beach. So I did. And she had a lot of questions about the books because, I told her that the books were about coincidence miracles, and I've experienced a lot of miracles in my life, and told her some of the things in the book. And she asked a lot of questions. She asked me if there's anything that I bumped into in my life that talks about the meaning of numbers, because she said she keeps noticing the number 777, 3 sevens. And if you've been listening to our radio show for a while, you know that 3 sevens is the number that talks about God's permission, his power, and his participation in things. And Bethlehem, where Jesus was born, is 777 meters above sea level. So I told her, what I know about 3 sevens, and told her our book has a whole chapter on the meaning of numbers. And she asked a lot of questions, and then she said to me that she started crying, actually. And I said, why are you crying? And she said, well, I've been trying to make some decisions, and I came here today specifically to pray on the beach. I get a lot of good results in praying when I come to the beach because it's quiet and refreshing. And I came here to pray to solve some of my problems, and now you're telling me the meaning of the number 3 sevens, and it's capturing me that I came here to have conversations with God, and I bumped into you right away, right here in the parking lot, and you're telling me about a book that talks about getting miracles and getting wisdom from God. So she said, is there a key message you could give me that'll help me today? And I said, yes, indeed. The whole purpose of my books has been to do just one thing, to convince everybody that all we have to do is ask God what to do, ask God to inspire us. That's all we ever have to do. There's one sentence in the Bible, in the book of Luke. In the book of Luke, Jesus said, only one thing is necessary, and that's what it is. Just keep asking God what to do, and He'll respond and tell us what to do. And there's 20,000 conversations in the Bible where God has spoken to people 20,000 times just in the Bible alone. And we've had 10,000 saints over the last 2,000 years, and they all talk to God and ask God what to do. So she was so delighted to get all of that. And then we noticed an amazing thing. There was a car parked right in front of her, the place that she pulled into, and the license plate on the car that was in front of her car had a license plate number 777. Certainly, this is an amazing event because we both arrived at the parking lot at the same time. We pulled into our parking places. We've been talking about God, and she burst into tears because she is there to ask God questions, and that's what our book helps people with. And she's been seeing the number 3 sevens, and there, right in front of her right now, is a car with 3 sevens on its license plate. After that amazing experience, we both went to the beach, and I started handing out cards. And the first couple I bumped into, turns out they were just married last week. They came from California to visit family and friends, and this was their wrap-up day. They were spending the day at the beach, then they were going back to California. And they were amazed. I handed them a card about Coincidence Miracles, and they started telling me some of the miracles in their life that were identical to miracles that I've experienced in my life. And that was amazing, the coincidence of us meeting on this particular day, because they came here as the last day before they are going back to California. And what was so great for both of us is they know about my book and my free website now, so they can use that and tell their friends about our website. But for me, I met somebody that God had come here from California who's telling me the same kinds of things that have happened in my life, they are also experiencing in their life in California. So I personally took this as a delightful moment for me. My sense was that God sent these people on this particular day to encourage me that, His message is out there all over the place. We're in Connecticut getting these coincidence miracles, and there's 2 people out in California that really didn't need my book to convince them, because they've been having miracles, coincidence miracles as well. But they're going to use my website, so they can refer other people to it to get them jump started if other people want to experience miracles as well. You might want to reach for a paper and pencil, because I'll be giving you our website address. You can jot it down because of all the free information that's on the website. I would encourage people to use the website for all of the free information on a regular basis. Our next coincidence miracle is very encouraging for me as well. I just experienced on the beach an encouraging moment from people from California. And a little later, I met a woman who is very active in her church activities, and she was very interested in talking about my books and our website, because she also has been experiencing miracles in her life. And the more we talked, the more we got to know each other and her miracle stories. And I don't know what we were talking about that brought up the next point, but she said that this very night she was going to be meeting with the pastor of a church 45 miles away from the beach that we were sitting at the moment. And I said, "Oh, what church is it?" And she told me the church, and I said, "This is really a coincidence miracle par excellence, because that's the exact church that I had my first miracle in when I was about 24 years old." And I told her about the first miracle, but I said, "That's the church, and I'm amazed you brought this up. Certainly God must have inspired you to bring it up to encourage me that you're going to the exact identical church that relates to my first miracle." And she said she was going to be meeting with the pastor, so I said, "Look, how about if I give you a signed copy of the book so you can bring it to the pastor tonight and mention to him that about 50 years ago or more, I was in that church and had my first miracle, and I'll even tell you what page it's on in the book so you can point that out to him." And she was ecstatic about that. She's a friend of the pastor, and she said, "I know the guy will really appreciate it." So the point of this miracle was, God had me meet somebody in the parking lot who needed to see the book, and who had that license plate 37s. And then I met two people from California who are also experiencing miracles like I've been for many years. And now I meet somebody who's going to the first church that I had a miracle in 50 years ago. So God certainly had set this all up for me, I think, because all these things were encouraging me personally on this day. I know that God had me meet this person who's going to just coincidentally meet the pastor of the church where I had my first miracle. Obviously, God had set this up. I mean, it's just too coincidental to just be an accident. And I'm also certain that God wanted me to share it on the radio here so that our listeners can see that God really participates in all of the minutiae in our life. He actually had this meeting occur at a beach far from my home, and the person I'm meeting with is going to be going to the church where I had my first miracle. Unbelievable, but I'm trying to convince everybody, and I hope I've just convinced you, God is extremely involved in all of the tiny minutiae in our life, and He's orchestrating things to create coincidence miracles in everybody's life because He wants us to notice that He's always with us. A few people later on the beach, I met a woman who was about 50 years old, and when I told her about the book and our website, she was excited and delighted because she said, I've been experiencing coincidence miracles in my life, my whole life. My mom and dad, when I was a kid, always pointed out to me all of the tiny things that were happening that God was doing in our lives to bring us happiness and joy, and they instilled that in me, and I constantly look for evidence of God during my day and spot these same things you're talking about, these small, tiny moments that are coincidence miracles. Some people call them serendipity events, but we have to remember that God is doing it, and we attribute these miracles to God and not just chance. A little later, I handed a card out to two women on a blanket. They were about age 30. They were great friends, and they were very interested in the book. They asked me a lot of questions, and one of the women started crying and sobbing, and it turns out the one who was not sobbing and not crying told me that her husband had just passed away about a week and a half ago, and they came here today, and her friend took her here today to try to help her calm down. But for the last week and a half, this woman has been bursting into tears uncontrollably, constantly during the day, and her friend is very concerned, and they've been talking about it, and she's trying to help her. And so we said a little prayer to try to help her, and then I got an inspiration. I said, gee, I just had a thought that might be helpful. My wife passed away 8 years ago at this point that I was talking to them. And I said, I had a similar experience after she passed away. I would also burst into tears, and I prayed about it, and over time, God showed me that the reason I was bursting into tears was because I was so sorry for all the times in our life. We were married for 53 years, and there were so many times in our life where I said no, I didn't want to do something that she wanted to do, and it was just like a mountain of times that I had said no in 53 years, and it really bothered me, and I felt so badly because I loved her. And when you're married 53 years, if you say no about something once every 3 months, you say a lot of no's. And I was so sad that I could have said a lot of yeses where I had said a lot of no's. Well, it turned out that was exactly what was happening to this woman. I was so blessed by God to get this inspiration at this exact moment to help the woman. And we all of us were just so amazed that God brought us together and God solved her problem. Remember to Google the title of our book for all of the free information you can get, and also for a free copy of our book. Just Google Tony's 50,000 Coincidence Miracles. Once again, just Google Tony's 50,000 Coincidence Miracles. God bless you all. I'll talk to you again next week.